Hello. I was just reading the documentation for STB image. I'm just going to continue where we were. So I should have a sort of a OBS thing here, which here is actually missing the IP cam. There you go. And here it kind of worked for 2 frames, and it did capture my IP camera stuff. You see now, I'm getting some stuff and I'm getting buffer not big enough. But yeah, so this is like the actual frame that is currently there. I can't put my finger and show it, but it's there. So this is where we're at, which is pretty good. As a proof of concept, it just shows that you can actually connect to the stream and then set it as a texture for OBS. There is a lot of optimization issues. This is a proof of concept. But beyond optimization, it is not even getting the data from the stream correctly. Why? Well, the reason is that MJPEG is nothing else than a multipart message of this MIME format. I know that because my HTTP response contains content type multipart mixed with a boundary provided. And this is fairly simple. Basically means that you look for 2 dashes followed by the value that's provided in the header. This will contain the frame or the part that has some headers that you can parse the same way you would parse any headers. And then at the end of the headers with a double \r\n, you now start the data. And once you start the data, you read until you find another frontier, which I think is the logic curator. Now the thing is, content in here, I did also receive a header. I think we can see it in here, where we did find a content length, and that is set to a specific value. But I found that this value does not necessarily match what I was getting. And even better, buffer not big enough basically means that I have allocated this amount and I've received more than that. In theory, I received more than that. So there's a few things that could be that could happen. So one, content length is correct, and from the first byte of body of the frame, I should read X or N number of bytes and then stop there, and then look for the frontier, or the frontier as the boundary, and I should look for it all the time. There's a few things that could be going wrong with my current implementation that yields what I have right now. One is I'm not scanning for the frontier properly. I've replaced str with my own implementation, which is extremely naive, just for the purpose of testing something. And the reason why is because str uses non-terminated strings, but some bytes in JPEG will be a null, just the null character, right? So that means it just stops when it shouldn't. So I've got my own version that doesn't stop there, that just has like a length and tries to find it. Okay, so if this is wrong, this is wrong. The other thing is I may be messing things with the headers or the state. If I am in, I'm reading a buffer of something, a packet that I received over the network, and that contains the frontier, but I'm actually in I'm looking at headers state, that could be an issue. So yeah, so that's the thing. But yeah, so that could be a little bit difficult. So how do I fix this? So I could just break it down. I'm thinking about dumping all of the network packets that I'm receiving and then scanning this huge dump with the frontier key that is here, and kind of like seeing and counting the bytes and see where we're at. But before I set up all of that, I wonder if I can just read some code and then see where I'm at. I'm actually going to start by just removing these because I really don't need it, and this can be removed as well as this and this. That was just something that was in there. Oh, that's interesting. I probably didn't. Okay, so what this means, if I reach this place there, what this means is that I've allocated a specific amount of memory for the JPEG based on the content length provided to me, and I've received more data without hitting the frontier value. So that's kind of the issue. I also wonder if it could be possible that like the frontier, the boundary data is in between two buffers. Because if that's the case, I would need to make sure I stitch the leftover from the previous thing instead of just discarding it. Yeah, that's a bit of an issue. Unless I need to set up like a ring buffer, so make sure that at least two packets always in there, so I can just. I mean, it realistically it is going to be that. It is possible that I receive the boundary of the frame across two packets. Simply by nature of me picking an arbitrary packet size. So I need to maybe rethink all of that. And not assume that everything I'm receiving is going to be nicely matching. So what do? Do I just create a... I'm tempted to do double buffering where I get stuff from the network and then yeah, I'm not sure how I would do that, because if I get stuff from the network and I consume some of it, as in like I'm reading it and you know, taking that into account, and then it reaches a point where I'm like, okay, I don't know yet, you should add more data. I need to move everything that I've consumed back, so I need to move there. I use mem_move to be honest, and then continue from the rest, which seems a bit complicated. What I could do is allocate a buffer which is twice the size of what I read, and only once my cursor passes the threshold of the half size of my buffer, then I allow it to be returned to. And then when I reach the end of that one, that's the problem. It's like when I reach the end, I need to start writing to the beginning again, but then it's not stitched together. So all of my string comparison is just not going to work. Unless I obviously do a proper circular buffer where writing at the beginning is actually stitched to the end. So it's like a proper circular thing with like a start and an end that I can move. Well, actually that does make sense, having this ring buffer. And then that way I can continuously stitch to it if it's big enough. I can re-implement things like string searches, unfortunately, and work with that. So I think I'm going to look into that. I know there's a big distraction from what we have, but I kind of want to do that. First, what is the size of my current buffer? Right, it's like this. Okay, so I may double it up. But let's start with this is kind of like header stuff. Do I want to make like a... No, I'm just going to do it here. I was thinking if I want to do a separate file from it. I'll make a separate file. I'm feeling separate filey today. It's going to be ring.h, and it's going to have a sure, and a struct ring with some data, right? So I do need a pointer to like where the data starts. So you're going to be, I kind of want to do a void star, but for the purpose of this, you're going to be an unsigned char star with two unsigned char star, a start one and an end one. So this should be like super simple, and then you can just allocate one by just setting the data and then moving it across. So I think I may want to do nothing with that. I think it's gonna have to stay like this for now. But in here I may do this, so ring, and then well, actually I don't even need that in the state. I can put it straight in. It's going to be really an issue because reading the head and everything, like I'm gonna have to do that in the ring. So all of my str is going to have to be adapted for like the ring, which is not great, but just for the purpose of this exercise, it is almost more of an exercise than anything else. So you've got a buffer here with buffer size. Instead, you're going to get a struct ring, call it buffer, still call it buffer, and you got nothing in there. And then buffer dot data equals malloc buffer size. Okay, which lets me do buffer dot start equals buffer dot data and data c and then end. Right, so this is the idea. Now it's interesting is that I don't really need like, do I need to keep a, no, because buffer is data, cursor is start technically, or more likely end, but I can actually move start as I go because I can say, oh, you're actually not overflowing. What's interesting is that I won't necessarily be able to do the read operation that easily. I may need to like do it in 2 steps with the mem copy, which I don't want to, but like I may have to do something where what I read there from buffer size is gonna have to be to the end of the allocated data. So that's where I can't really, like, how do people see ring buffer? Because obviously, like, when you're a circular buffer, it is right? Encapsulation. I want to make sure they work with the library instead of modifying the structure directly. I don't care about it. I mean, the whole point of C is people can just modify the structure if they want to. So you make an opaque one and you give it a handle, okay, sure. Init free reset put to get empty full capacity size. Yeah, so in here they don't really do something that just lets you do that because it's gonna, yeah, head, tail, and max. Yeah. I mean, maybe I do that. Let's keep it simple. And what I'm gonna do is just, I will have a buffer into which I will read something from the network, and I will then copy it into the ring buffer. So I think I'll do that. I'm going to put it. Okay, So this is where I kind of want to do, yeah, I'm going to make some simple functions. Void ring init with a struct ring, and I'm just going to put that actually. Right. I feel like I'm going into like the wrong direction for this exercise, but I don't really care. I saw something called SZ, so I'll just do that. Okay. Oh well, it didn't complain here. We'll see. Ring data and ring data. Okay. Don't know what's complaining that like assigning to unsigned char star from compatible to a void star. Well, I did it in the other file and it didn't complain. So I wonder if it's just a question of, yeah, I don't know. I'll just. Isn't that the whole point that I don't really need defining a header file? Okay, I don't really care about this one specifically. Although I will need it to be defined here if I want to do a don't know why it did that. Anyways, okay, let's just ignore this for now. Okay, yeah, so the only thing that I was missing here was a size t capacity, which ring capacity equals size, as said. Okay, so that's kind of where I wanted to get started at. Okay, now ring init buffer and buffer size times 2. Let's try that. So I'm gonna have a packet buffer and I'm not gonna have a cursor. This is really clanky to just rewrite this entire thing, but we'll see. So read is gonna read into the packet buffer. This time I actually don't care about the -1. Great. And then what I'll do right here is ring CPI. Sure, why not? And then the ring that I want to go into is the buffer. The data I want is packet buffer, and the amount is received. Okay, so now I got ring CPI, void ring CPI, struct ring void star data size t size. I don't think size is the sure good size. It actually makes me really want to just change this to these two void stars, just to make it that much simpler. All right, so ring copy is simple-ish. I need to make sure that I write the data where end is. So I need a size t chunk size, and that's going to have to be if data let me think, data and capacity, data minus end. So end minus data is going to be how much there is in it before the actual end of the buffer. How much is there free, right, in the actual backing up memory. So this is how much there is free, but actually no, that's just how much there is in there. So I need to do capacity minus that. So ring capacity, ring and ring. All right. I'm missing computer. Okay, so that's going to be an issue. So I am going to go back to, because I'm going to do tons of arithmetic pointer, you're just going to become another unsigned char, which here for some reason you go red. Okay, so this is actually going to become something called capacity, or like left, capacity left, just to be clear. Now size t chunk equals capacity left is smaller than size, then size, otherwise capacity left. Simple. So the idea is that if I have enough space in the backing data of the ring buffer, what I'm going to write is just the chunk, right? And then the only thing that I want to say is size written equals 0. Now, I think that what we can simply do here is put this in a loop, put this at the top, and say while written is smaller than size, then we do this. And what this is figure out a chunk, do something, and at the end written plus equal chunk. Okay, and in there mem copy into ring at end. Do I want an n plus 1? That's the where, yeah, sure, why not? And then the data with the chunk, which I am now going to rename to chunk size. And this needs to come from string. It doesn't need to come from string. So let me see if I'm doing this right. Okay, so the only thing that I need to do here that I'm missing is that ring end needs to move. But if ring end reaches the end, like the capacity, then it needs to go back to 0. And that needs to continue until I make sure that like end and I don't like wrap around and just hit the start, because I've got start and end. But that doesn't always work because start and end, like there's a head, start and end is actually head and tail, but actually tail could start eating the head. So what I need to do instead is when I hit the end, what do I do at the end? They can be in any order, so I kind of want to do like what's the minimum, what's the maximum, and normalize them at any time. So when my head and my tail are like the other way around, where my tail is smaller than my head, then what I want to make sure is that the capacity that I have left to write is actually that minus that. But if my tail is bigger than my head, then the capacity is all the way to my actual capacity. So data plus capacity is going to be the pointer, right? So I think I may want to formalize that into something that I can reuse, which is going to be size t get capacity. So ring get capacity struct ring. So here we're going to have a simple if ring at end is the same as is bigger or equal to ring at start, then I need to return ring capacity minus ring end minus ring data. Okay, and then I need to do a else. So I guess this one, the other situation is end is smaller, so it's always smaller. So here I'm going to do return ring start minus ring end, right? Okay. Now the only thing is moving the pointers is going to be difficult. So we'll just need to think about that. So this is where I'm at. So here I do want to replace this with ring get capacity with the ring. That should be simpler. And I want to make sure that I don't grab more than what the capacity is left. It's more like linear capacity, but yeah, let's just keep it like that. So, all right. Now, I don't know where I would point it. Should I point, let's say I write 1 byte to my ring buffer. Start is at 0, which is where data is, and end is at 1. Now if I do 1 minus 0, that's going to give me 1, which is the size. And that means that end is where I should be writing. So I'm always like after, instead of being on the data itself. So that means that I don't really need to do +1 here. That's where I need to write. Great. But if I say I've written 8 or like 1, then I just simply need to increase it. So for that, I think it's going to be as simple as ring end plus equal chunk size, with the caveat that if ring end is bigger, and I think maybe even equal, but we'll see about that, ring data plus ring capacity, then I need to make ring end equals ring data. I'm going to remove these, plus, and this is where it gets a bit odd, ring end minus ring data, ring and ring data minus ring capacity. Now I do want to do the thing in my mind correctly there. So I'm basically saying that the end is where the data is plus how far it should be in. So like if I moved past 3 things, that I should move it back to the beginning. Now, because of the way that I'm writing, and I'm writing like exactly at the end, I don't think I need to do this whole thing. Realistically, I should say, if it's bigger than that, then I should set it to data, right? Obviously, I should also check that I'm not going beyond start, right? If I've reached the end of start. So I think this should work technically. yeah. Now this is going to be a lot of issues because I'm going to get 19 errors of stuff that just doesn't work because I can't do string compare on stuff like that. And actually strncmp and strcmp is kind of like a byte compare. So I think I'm just going to swap them for something else. Yeah, let me just start writing them. Now strcmp gives me a number, and the number was like, I think it tells you how many, I don't know what it does, I don't care, I'm going to do a bool instead. Ring cmp. It's going to be super dumb. Struct ring followed by a const char star needle, and then I need to go from the start and just like continuously go until I find something that has all of the ones that I'm looking for in an extremely naive way, and then I'll optimize the string comparison. I could also try to just say, well, actually, if what I'm comparing, if I do a strlen on the needle, then I could technically do this, that, but I could just like chunk it into two, but I won't. Right, so okay, let's do that. Let's do the naive one, and then we'll just do something else. I is smaller than, so n is how many I'm going to compare in that pointer, which means I want to do well, I want to kind of go through the entire ring. So I'm going to have to do, going through the ring is a little bit difficult because I need to get the size. So I'm going to need something like this. Get size. I'm going to say len. And if my right is bigger than my start, then it's super simple because I just need to do end minus ring start. If it's the other way around, then what I need is, let me think, did I do the right thing? End minus start, yes. If end is bigger than start, great. Positive number. If it's the other way around, I need to calculate from start to capacity, and then from 0 to end. So let's start with that. Ring end minus ring data is going to be the bit at the beginning plus ring data plus ring capacity minus ring start. I'm going to bracket those as well. Right, so here I can then say size t len equals ring get len ring, and it's going to be len minus n plus plus I. So I'm going to go through all of those characters, and then in there I'm going to do another for loop, which is terrible, but this is what we need to do. 0 j smaller than n plus plus j, and then we can say if let me think, it's going to be I plus j for sure, and what I need is like go through the ring and just like go through it, except that depending on where I'm at the ring, because I'm going to add that to the start could go over the capacity. So for that, what I'm going to want to do is unsigned. Start could go over the. How do I do that? I want to just do start, and automatically I want to have like a number and automatically know where in it is, and that should be fairly easy because what I can do is get the pointer to the end, like what capacity is, so data plus capacity, right? That's the end, and basically say that whatever number you want to look, you want to modulate it by that. I think that's as simple as that. I just need to get IJ modulo it, but then I need to know which pointer to use, because if it goes beyond, I need to switch to the SO part. So let me do something a bit dumb for now, and let's just do the nasty thing. So if I plus j is bigger than capacity, so that's what we have to do there. Size t cap ring get capacity, which is not really that, but actually when get ring capacity, like it's not going to tell me which pointer I should just continue from. Like this is going to be a bit tricky, right? Like what I'm going to do, like if it's bigger than, like I'm going to do at start, if it's bigger than that, do I just then use data? Yeah, that's literally what it is. Okay, simple enough. So if it's that, I'm going to say if it's bigger than capacity, then I want to do ring data, and I'm going to do I plus j mod capacity. Right, so that's the value. Sure, just fix this for me. So that's the value. I could make it simpler, but I'll just do that. So unsigned char val. This is val. Okay. Else it's going to be very similar, except instead of data, I'm going to use start. And I don't need to module the cap. It would do anything anyways because I'm not bigger than that. Which technically means I can just do minus cap in here. So that's the val. Now here I can say if val is different from needle at j. Now what I want to do there is to basically say break out of the inner loop and start again at the next position. When do I win? I win if I go out of this loop and I've made everything. If I just do this without breaking, it's pretty much the winning there. I mean, I could just keep a internal state to just say you found it or you didn't. Don't know if I want to do that. I opened the door to so many problems because obviously if the thing is split there, if the thing is split and I just want to read a string and do something with it, like get some data out, I'm gonna have to do the thing, or like every time I go over the bump, it's gonna be a pain. It's gonna be off by 1. Like, is this a thing? I feel like I'm doing the wrong thing. single produce constant prime, like that's not really what I'm trying to solve. So I think this is what I need to think about it differently. Okay, let's just go back to the drawing board, if I may say so, and I'm gonna want to read some amount of data, and I think that when I'm done, or when I need more, what I'll need to do is just to move the leftover data to the beginning and read whatever's there. And I think I'm going to do that. Okay, let's do that. Let's undo a bunch here. Okay, so this should be fine. And I'm even going to do delete this. Right. So back to here. Let's think about it. I've got this nice go to this state loop thing, and I also got this move the cursor. But the idea is that reading should not necessarily reset the cursor, and also reading should not necessarily put like this at the end, but let's just not worry about that. And reading should actually just read however much space there is left in there. But okay, let's start here. And let's say that my first step in this is going to be mem move destination source, and how many. Destination is going to be buffer. The source is cursor. How many is cursor minus buffer. Now that means that this is going to be 0 with 0 data. But if I have 8 bytes left, that's where it's wrong. Because I need the previous received to know what the size was before. So this is where I should probably move this here, and here I'm going to say how much do I want to copy. I want to get cursor minus buffer, and I want to do received minus this, which is going to let me do 0 here. Right, that's the idea. Now if this is 0 and these are the same value, it's going to be 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Now if I've got a 4096 and I've read 4000, I've got 96 left, then receive these 4096, cursor minus buffer is going to be about 4000, because that's what cursor is, and I'm getting 96. So I'm going to grab 96 bytes at cursor and move them where buffer is. At what point I can do something. Okay, great. But what that means is I need to read at cursor, and I need to move cursor to be however many I've read. So the previous received minus cursor minus buffer, which to be honest, I think that mem move does give you that. Void star, guaranteeing correct behavior over a string. Okay. Returns a pointer to test. Okay, so this is not necessarily useful. Cursor is going to be receiving. So cursor is going to be buffer plus this, which this I should probably just put here as a size t left over Okay. Copy the move the leftover to the beginning of the buffer, and move the cursor to this. But that doesn't seem right, if I'm being honest. I think cursor may need to become buffer again, and read need to be cursor plus leftover. I think that seems correct. That updates my received. I can delete this and buffer at, well, the reality is cursor plus leftover is this actually. Cursor plus leftover plus received is now null terminated character. I'm just going to deref this and write to it. Now we'll see what that does, but like in my mind that means that if I didn't read some stuff, it's just going to stay there, and moving the cursor essentially says you will be writing here. The last thing I do need is buffer size -1 is not correct. What I need is how much space I have left, and leftover is going to be basically this, minus leftover -1. So at that point I should just do something stupid and try to run it. Okay. The IP cam is not there. Like there may be something wrong with it. Let's think about it later. It did print some stuff. It did print found, and then nothing else after that. And unless I'm incorrect, it's still there. Oh, I'm receiving tons of stuff there. And a bit too fast, if I'm being honest. Bound value is like a very constant value in there. I was receiving tons of stuff. It's also possible that I was just repeating the same thing over and over again. Okay, never mind. So let's just continue reading the code. So this is that the cursor is already at the right place, because I want to read the leftover anyways. Now I come here and I compare I was wondering if my null termination is going to be overwritten. I think that's fine. I compare with this HTTP. I mean, it does seem to work with the first thing. Cursor. So I move cursor to find something. Yeah, that's fine. And then I just read the header, which is going to move the cursor here. So if you find stuff, it says boundary is, which am I going to be able to read there? No. Let's just rerun it with less information. Okay, boundary is fine, and then I get a found. So boundary is there, and then I get found, and I move the cursor, and I come there. So you go after that, and then you're awaiting headers. I think the problem is like in here after this. I think there may be a line return after the state boundary. So I may want to do plus 2 just for to make sure that I do the right thing. Which, to be honest, like I'm tempted to do printf %.star_s, and this is always going to be start headers here, and then this is going to contain, this is going to be, sorry, I'm just tapping on there. I'm going to put it right here, cursor, and I want to read 32. Okay. Oh, it did start printing something there. Interesting. So start data here is this exactly, right? Content type, whatever. And I've got some stuff there. So content type, image JPEG. Start header here, content type image JPEGs, followed by content something. Now I'm getting 2 start header here, which feels a bit odd. But we'll see. Then content type image, content type this. Then I print a bunch of stuff, and then it stops there. Okay. So why would I get start headers here? Like, did I legitimately get 2 images? No, because I didn't get any printouts on the waiting data, for example, right? So it did find the boundary, and then it did come here, and it looked and it found some content length stuff. But oddly enough, there I got content type and image JPEG. This should be correct, because if I finish the string, it is null terminated. So if I finish the string without finding the headers that I'm looking for, I should read header end, which is going to get me the end of the last value. But that could be incorrect, because if I'm reading headers and after headers I've got JPEG data, which means I didn't null terminate the string properly. It's not that I didn't null terminate it properly, it's just that I had JPEG data. It's gonna find that null character and move there instead of moving to the end of the headers. But that shouldn't happen, because if I find the stuff, it should be header end. Okay. Well, I did print bound key. Boundary is header here, content type image JPEG. Interesting, because this one, content type image JPEG, just had nothing in there, right? Great. And I found these 2. Okay. And I'm still awaiting headers. Yeah. I guess what I did here is I just moved. But it was header end. Did I wait for like another set of headers? I think I did. But what's really weird is that what I got was correct in my start headers here. I think I did get I wonder if this content type image JPEG is like legit still part of oh no, because it's a separate content type. I can't have 2 headers with the same thing. So I did get boundary. So I did find the boundary. I got content type JPEG image, and it may have had nothing in that packet. Possible, because I've got the \rn and the \rn there. At least I've got 1. I'm gonna do something a little bit stupid but very useful. I'm gonna put a vertical pipe there, so I know when it actually ends. Okay. So just because JPEG1 and all of that seems to be it looks like I'm never eating this one, and I'm continuously writing to like this. Did I put a forward slash? No, I didn't. Right, so this is where I'm at. So I've got one line written there, and then nothing after, because I'm writing 32 characters, unless like this is 32 and I'm just unlucky. Let's try again. Okay, right here. So no, it looks like I am legitimately, this is the end of the string. There was one line returned, that's not a string. And I did find content type image JPEG. And the thing is, what it seems like is that it should have finished, but I'm still a content type image JP plus content length is there. So that means that my cursor, so either my leftover calculation is incorrect, or my cursor was not moved properly here. Now value plus value len plus 4 is where my cursor should be. And if I look at there and I print value is image JPEG, value length, unless value length is a negative value, shouldn't be because I'm printing it here, so it should be fine, right? Yeah. And that's my cursor. What I'm going to do is end header here. And if I get to awaiting data, I'll very bravely exit, which I don't know how it's going to work as a plugin. Like it should literally exit OBS. Okay, I just realized that it's never going to reach there because I'm not seeing any end, so I'm very suspicious. Yeah. So it's not reaching that. It's not reaching that thing here. It actually just reaches the end, and the return value is not header end. It's probably it's the end of the string. So here, if I say if ret equals, I really don't know what other values are valid in here. Buffer end. So if I found the end of the buffer, and it is possible I found the end of the buffer while having this populated properly, but I should probably finish. Yeah, I'm gonna leave this for now. Cursor equals, so this is where I need to basically go to the end of the buffer, and I mean strlen. I don't want to do strlen, it's really bullshit if I do this. I'm gonna have to do buffer at rcvd. Now I'm gonna just do a plus. So I should point to the actual 0, and if I read that, that should be the actual 0. And I do want to continue the loop. Okay. Okay. I'm in a better place. Found headers, bound key. Headers start here, correct. And I've got 2 line returns, and then I've got some garbage that I'm reading a little bit. But I'm reading content length with this value. And then I go in and I've got the correct data. Okay, so this seems to be a little bit more correct. Now, I am awaiting data in this situation. And I am printing it all. So if after this many lines, right, I am not if after this many lines I'm not getting anything else, I should be in a different state. If I am in a different state, which state did I go to? Well, probably awaiting boundary, right? With one problem is that if I'm awaiting boundary and I was trying to find boundary, why would I go there? I should probably just do found -2. This is still like terribly managed. Okay, so that's the same thing. End of server. Received is 0. Well, it's possible that at that point I tried to read 0. I do want to print it. Bound send.s pre-vertical pipe as well, and this is going to be 32 bytes of cursor. Bound doink. So that means that this was a full frame that seems to have worked just fine. I found this followed by content something, and this is content. Then I'm finding image JPEG content type, which I then find content length with this, which I then see bound value this. So I'm moving the cursor correctly, but it's possible that I'm at some point asking for 0. How do I know if I asked for 0? Well, buffer size minus left over -1. I think we're getting there. Asking for 0 bytes. Okay. Could leftover be incorrect in this instance? I mean, leftover can be 0. Buffer size is going to be a big number, so leftover would have to be buffer size to cause an issue. And if I filled the buffer with received, right? Leftover could be 0. No, leftover could be the full size. So I ask for this amount, and I may get it, and nothing happens. Yeah, so that's something that is odd there. Let me log it a bit more. Let me do that. All right, come on, I just want to do that quickly. And then data. So what state am I in? I don't think there is any other state that exists for this. Okay, so now it kind of starts working, but not really. Okay, great. So now I got the issue. So I ask for this much. It doesn't print anything because usually state awaiting data prints some data, and then I just ask for 0. So I print this. If the cursor is this, I say continue. The problem is that continue is not necessarily going to be great. If the cursor is this, so this was just a question of like, oh, by the way, I thrusted you into awaiting data while the cursor is at the end of it. I don't think this is reliable because it is possible that I have a 0 where the cursor is. I could also have sent you into this I'm going to do something simpler here just to make it working. If cursor is bigger or equal to buffer plus received, then you continue. I think that makes more sense. I think it's possible that it does the same error because I'm just going to continue. Okay, so something worked for much longer this time. Until buffer not big enough, which is odd because in here it looks like a buffer not big enough is like me missing a boundary probably. So waiting data, so I got 8.5, 5.12. I guess the problem that I have there is that I am printing as I'm writing, so it's also possible that I'm just like I got screen tearing, but not really. Depending on how you write to a JPEG image, if it's like in a specific raw order, I don't know. All right, so this looks much better. Awaiting data, print some stuff and do some things, okay. But I ran out of memory. So just for the sake of like getting this working, I'm gonna grab this as a value and make it bigger. So I'm gonna say 90K, and I am gonna instead of doing a malloc when I find the content length, and this is kind of like yeah, I'm just gonna do it in a dumb way, and I'm gonna put it to this one, so 10K. If this still overflows, and I should probably make a bigger number, then it means that I'm missing a boundary. Oh wow, okay. Buffer not big enough, so I'm missing a boundary. That was pretty smooth. That's kind of like what I'm expecting. But like it's very clear that I am very likely missing a boundary because I'm like this is 73. It's really odd that I'm getting a new content type image JPEG. Well, usually I don't get that one a second time in between them. Oh yeah, I always get JPEG and whatever. But here I found bound this, do this, doink, bound this, do this. And I get like a bunch of 4096 until I find the bound. And then I continue. But at some point, buffer not big enough. So just to test it for sure, I'm going to bump that to 10 times as big. Now I've got a meg to store a JPEG in. and I'm asking for 0 bytes. So let's see, when does that happen? So MJPEG does not have a line return in this one. And my headers, then yeah, I'm getting the line return of my header there, but I didn't keep the content type image JPEG. So in here, I should probably not move the cursor and repass the headers. Like, I mean, I was mid, this didn't finish, so I should probably instead give the position of the last key in case that last one was not found. But actually, I mean, it is possible here that it actually did not enter the loop, because it tried to do read header, and I just didn't find any, so key was never set. And value plus length are going to be in an odd position. More realistically, I just hit buffer end. But just because I hit buffer end doesn't mean that I should ignore that. Here it says like you've got something, but there, buffer end or even header end, the header is fine. If I hit the end of the buffer, which I think is the instance there, and should I just like leave the cursor where it is? Because technically it would then add the rest and then finally move on. Like, is this a mistake to move the cursor to the end when it doesn't work? I mean, it feels like it made my stuff better. Yeah, because now I'm back to like all of that mess, right? But it shouldn't, because if I can finally get back to the top, I haven't run for too long. I run really fast for too long. Okay. I don't even have the same error here. Right, I guess the problem is that why in this instance I have this, and when I go about, because I'm asking for more data there, great. When I go about asking for more data, it eats the E, the G, and the 2 line return characters. Because if it didn't, then it would parse the headers properly. So that's the problem that I have. So why, when the buffer ends, like I'm not moving the cursor here, I'm leaving it where it is. So it's quite likely my this logic there that is wrong, right? What's left over? What I received. If I do cursor minus buffer, let's apply it here, right? I've got this left in the string that I know for sure, right? And my cursor is still at the same position. And if I do cursor minus buffer, it's going to tell me how much I've consumed of the buffer. And if I say this is how much you've received and this is how much you've consumed, and make the difference, which is what I do here, that's how much there is left over. So you grab that leftover and you move it to the beginning. You grab the cursor, you grab leftover bytes, you put it at the beginning. Then you reset the cursor to be at the beginning of the buffer because you just moved it. And then you ask for when I'm here, right? I'm asking for 73. So there was 91 and I'm asking for 73. But realistically, if I look at that, I'm at 96 minus 195. 95 minus 73 is going to be 22. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So that's the problem. It stops at JP on my leftover calculation, is what it seems, right? So is leftover incorrect? I'm calculating 22. I'm calculating 22 if received was something like, I don't know what the leftover is. Well, actually I do know, because I just calculated it to be 22 in there, because I'm using buffer size in there, right? Which makes sense. So leftover is incorrect in that received minus cursor minus buffer is not correct. I'm not really seeing a problem with it. The only other way to do it would be to just figure out some other stuff. Let me look at the logs again. It's interesting that that one was asking in a weighting boundary, it asks for 91, which is 4 less than what it would usually do, which is 2 \r \n, which is an interesting number. Let's print stuff. I'm going to print it here. Printf before read person.start_s with the boundary there, and I'm going to read leftover. I mean, the thing is, leftover is already calculated. It's useless to do that. If I do that, it's going to be useless. It's really not. I'm going to do it anyways, just to have some change. I stopped it really quickly, but I don't know if that was really good enough there. Okay. Yeah, so as I assumed there, before read has 2 line returns there, a \r \n, and that means that I'm actually not consuming what's after boundary there, or like the end of the headers. So it would be nice if my header reading library was just you know, I could just get the state at the end. You could potentially say that documentation says the state will be updated with the end when it reaches the end. I don't know. And then my content type is there. Before read is this with a JP. So actually it's interesting because the 4 missing will be here. So what's actually happening is that I am moving my received by 4. It's because received should be modified to contain the leftover from previously. Otherwise I'm making an incorrect assumption. So received is great, but here I'm going to say, oh yeah, because otherwise I'm writing in the wrong place there. Received plus equal leftover, which means I just need to remove this. Okay, and I'm not using it otherwise. So this should clear out some of the issues. Okay. Seg fault. Okay, great. I don't know what type of seg fault that was. My hand is moving, and a seg fault. Right, so this seems to be working much better. It's interesting, but it looks like it may be, you know, I get a bound value for content length, and I've got a fairly fixed amount of like lines, which is about this size, and then I find the bound, and then it's content, and then it starts there, and then this, and this is actually still the same size. It's not really an issue. I don't know if I can add address sanitizer to something like a plugin like that. I don't think it works. I can try, but I'm pretty sure that address sanitizer is added to an entire program. So I'm gonna have to figure out where it falls. So state awaiting data. I mean, it's probably my -2 that I do somewhere. So yeah, anyways, let's just tidy some stuff up. So this was correct. I'm going to keep those because they're useful. I might change them later. This can be removed as well as bound key sure, header end, and then this can delete as well. Awaiting data, sure, bound, I can delete it. Well, found -2 may be the problem, because if found is like at the exact position, is that really possible? I mean, I could read the first half of the boundary, not find it, and then slap it in my JPEG data, and then and do the wrong thing. So I may have to like but this could always be the case, like if I get them one at a time, like how do I guarantee that? Do I always need to like compare two full packets? I mean, if I have a packet that is of n size, and n is bigger than the length of the boundary, and then I've got a second packet that is of n2 size, which is also bigger, then if I stitch those two together and search in that, I can guarantee that if the boundary is found, yada yada yada, right? But in my case, if the boundary is in between two packets, I could see the first packet and say the boundary is not there, store that into the JPEG, and go into the next boundary, thinking, go into the next packet, also not finding boundary because it wasn't there. One thing I could do is to store the last boundary length of the bytes of what I'm copying in awaiting data, and have that in something that's like supposed to be the length of like that length, or like double the size, and then also compare that. I think I may do that as a cheap trick, because otherwise I would just basically say when you receive data. Actually, I'm going to do that. It's going to be easier. When I receive this, instead of here copying everything, right, and moving it, I'm going to copy everything minus the size of the boundary, so that there's always the size of the boundary left over when I'm reading data. So if the new one comes in and it has like the 1 byte that was missing, then it would read it correctly. Okay, so that's what I need. Chunk size. I'm going to read chunk size minus strlen. I'm actually put it straight up in chunk size. So it's there. Chunk size minus equal strlen of state boundary, right? And then buffer remaining is this, and then not big enough. So what this is going to do is move the cursor by the chunk size, which even if it's the buffer length being interesting that I've literally wrote that the same way. That confused me. So that means that there will be a leftover of that size, the boundary. It's so weird that it starts crashing when I put my hand in there. If I leave it running, let's see, it crashes as well. I wonder if that crash may not be related to... It's pretty responsive. It's a time-based stuff, so it's either a... I'm writing outside of the size of the... like, where do I do this malloc there? Yeah, so buffer remaining, I just don't... This is too small. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Just see if that does anything. Okay, so I'm still getting the same error. And interesting enough, it just never does anything because, yeah, that's the problem that I have, is that it never reaches 0. But it should, even if that, it should find the thing, right? I mean, if I find the boundary, like, it should write the image. Chunks in small being corrupted. Okay. Like, I find it really odd that changing that value had that impact. Was that like actually that? Yeah, it did definitely change stuff. So this really is like a buffer remaining. I wonder if I should just say buffer length minus that strength length, because if the buffer remaining is less than the boundary, then my chunk size is negative. So really I should say buff length something. Okay, so I'm going to do it here actually and put it in buff length. Okay. The only problem being that it still think remaining is too small, and it may just stop because buffer remaining is... No, it shouldn't do that. Okay, right, so the next thing I want to try is render causing the issue? Is it because I'm trying to read? This is a race condition thing. Alright, that does not seem to be correct, because doing a return at the beginning of render did not fix it, did not stop rendering. Okay, now it does. I probably didn't install it. Ah, so now I seem to be like smooth butter. Okay, so What that means is that I'm probably reading and something changes here. And that's where I do want to do something that is going to be this. Frame. Okay. And you're going to get a struct frame and a I'm going to say current frame. That is not the right placement for this. Pending frame. And now I just need to do 14 changes. So this is always going to be current for these two. And render should also do current. Everything else should do sorry, I'm just like starting sentences and not finishing them. Everything should use pending. And then I need to do a swap. So if I'm going to do a swap, I will make them pointers. If I make them pointers, I may as well store somewhere struct frames, 2 frames, and then just sort it out. I'm gonna have to replace a bunch of those. Okay. Let me just render first here. This and this. Right. I kind of wanted the thing is the frame are just pointers, so it doesn't really matter. But I kind of wanted the data to be in the state, and then just have 2 pointers to the data in the state, and I can just then swap them fairly easily. And what I do need to do is on create. I'm gonna want to say state current frame equals state frames at 1, and I'm just going to give it a pointer, and then this is going to be 0, and that's pending. Right, so this is what's going to happen there. Now I mean, to be honest, I do calloc now, so that shouldn't matter anymore. Right, so this is where things get interesting, because this means STBI stuff. Now load from memory should go into pending. Okay, and this is going to be the pending frame data. Now once we're there, I've got state buffer is no, so this is just like resetting the buffer for the thing. So here I need to swap the buffers, and when I swap it, I'll basically, yeah, I kind of want to make sure I free that data. Which is fine. So here's where I swap it. Struct. I want to do swap values using XOR. I want to do it. It's not very often that I need to do it, but because I understand how it works. So I XOR A with B, and I get B by XORing A with B, and I get A by XORing A. Okay, so it's just simple as. So state pending frame equals state pending frame state current frame. Now this might not work because these are pointers, so let's just do the unfortunate stuff. Frame C equals state current frame. State pending frame equals state, I'm going to actually replace current frame because that's the one that I saved. State current frame equals state pending frame, that's the atomic operation, and C. Old current is now pending. Alright, let's think about this. No, let's just run it. I think I still have my return. No, I don't. Wow, that's, everything's like smoothed out, not crashing just yet. Wow, so this is what I needed to do. I just needed to double buffer it. I still got way too much like malloc going on. CPU has a 6% for this. Whoa, 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 whoa. It's cool though. Now I can have like a phone cam. Yo, whoa, 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 whoa. I don't know how the autofocus works. Let's see my situation. Ah! It's stopping. It crashed. Okay. It did kind of fan up before crashing, but that means that, I mean, this was running for a while. There's obviously a bunch of stuff that I'm not happy with. I want a pre-allocated, a large enough pool of memory for the JPEGs I'm going to receive, and just for that, and that's going to be where it's going to be interesting, because I used the buffer being null as one of the states to know that something happened. Like if it still hasn't initialized it, which is here. Although the reality is that if I'm doing state awaiting data, I kind of still want to finish reading this, I guess, is the idea. So in here, I could just say instead, and if it's not null, so I can say state is state awaiting data. So if you reach the end, you've got something in the buffer, then great. And then there you go. And then I do want to do this thing of like, I don't really care about the remaining. Like remaining is gonna have to be like the size of it. I don't know if I can do that because buffer is going to be like a pointer to something, so I don't know if I can do a size off. But I'm going to say remaining is going to be JPEG buffer size. Right, and now I'm going to have my good old pal macro. JPEG buffer size is going to be set to a very generous 1000 that's 1K, 1 meg. You have 1 meg, okay? Kind of what I'd say. You got 512K for your JPEGs. All right, which also means that on create here, I do want to make sure to say state buffer, just malloc it, doesn't matter, and JPEG buffer size. Right, let's start with that. which should clear out some stuff, and obviously it's not going to help me with that crash that I have. Not getting anywhere this time. And it's consistent. So I changed something that didn't work. I guess this state awaiting data is the problem there. It's like this is kind of like the same. Oh, I'm freeing the buffer. I don't really need the buffer length, if I'm being honest. I'm also still crashing there. Okay, I need to think about what I did. I don't need length, and remaining is fine because I'm resetting it every time. Yeah, so this is where I'm gonna have a problem there. Buffer remaining. So I'm copying remaining, but remaining I don't know what buffer length is. But buffer length is now a fixed value, which is JPEG buffer size. But that's incorrect, right? I should have counted how much up to that point, right? That's what it should be. Like remaining is going to be useful to say you don't have any space left, but I'm going to do it the other way around, where I'm going to say I don't need buffer remaining. What I need is buffer len. So now I'm back to this, which is going to be an issue. So now I can say buffer len is 0. I'm going to make it much simpler. Right, so this is the thing. So now instead of this I can just say buffer length. Right, so when I want to write to buffer length I can do this, right? Cursor found, blah blah blah. Then I free the data, I do this, bing bang bong, buffer is set to null, which it should not be set to null. I guess this is where the other issue is. Okay, and then here is buff len, and this is the thing. So chunk size is going to be like how much am I going to copy from cursor? Well, I don't really have a limit. What I should copy from cursor is how much I can. But actually buffer remaining is going to be JPEG minus state buffer length. Simple as. And this is going to be the same thing here, which is not great, but we'll just sort it out. JPEG minus state buffer length. Okay. So that's my chunk size. Now buffer length minus, so I don't need to do this anymore. I can just say buffer length. That's where I want to write. Okay. And then buffer remaining this. So this is where I need to do buffer length is going to be plus equal to chunk size. And then there I can just go and say if state buffer length is bigger than JPEG size, buffer not big enough. Okay, this should help a little bit. I think it was literally that setting it to null that just probably immediately failed it. No. Okay, so it fails on my first awaiting data. So what in awaiting data do I do right after this? What do I do? My font is going to be null in here, I think. So I do this, and then I just say I've got a lot of space left. Like I want to avoid the overflow. So the reality is in here, I'm going to say if state buffer length plus buff len is bigger than JPEG something, then here is where I kind of want to do this, right? Which means I can just stop with this and say buff len, right? And here buff len as well. Instead of doing these weird things. Right, let's see if that does anything. I'm just not even checking like the actual issue. I'm just running. I'm gonna get the same error. Yeah, I need to figure out where I'm wrong. I don't think it finds it in the first packet. That's not possible. So the reality is it's gonna be the mem copy, and buffer length hopefully is set to 0 here, and buffer is a valid value. I think that's probably what's going on there. So if I do this, I should say state buffer len. Install, run, launch, normal, nil, and 0. Okay, so this is literally what's going on, which is odd because I malloc it on create and I set it to null here, which was the problem, I imagine. Launch anyways, run normal mode. Butter smooth. I don't know, latency is really good actually. Might even be like level of like my current camera. Whoa, 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 whoa. I've got two hands, you can see. Okay, now something at some point fails. I'm not sure what it is, but with this bigger, yeah, this trick of like never always living in the leftover buffer the last few bytes to make sure that if I can scan the thing properly. It is a bit CPU crazy there. Oh, there you go. End of server, and I get, basically what's going on is like I get two state awaiting boundary next to each other. I get two state awaiting boundary next to each other. So that means that I mean, it's either the server is still running, so I don't think it's ending the connection, but I'm getting an awaiting boundary. And then I'm getting something else. Okay, so just to make things a bit simpler, I am going to remove the awaiting. I'm going to leave this one in. I am going to kind of comment that out, just so the data doesn't spam. It's still going to say awaiting data a bunch of times, which I'm going to kind of comment out as well. And when I get awaiting boundary, so I go to awaiting boundary when I find the boundary. Could I just like jump straight to a new frame? Because really awaiting boundary, what it's going to do is it's going to find it again and it's going to put it at the end, right? So I'm actually tempted to just say, especially since there's +2 here for the string length, I'm tempted to say found plus strlen state boundary +2 and keep the same state. So I keep reading the data, because basically what I did seem to do there is that if to go back to your awaiting boundary, it means that I found it, but then when I came here, it found it, but there was no 2 dashes before them two. Which I think is possible if the boundary is right at the end and it gets eaten. Because if I leave boundary and it's there and there's only a few bytes left, then the 2 dashes are missing. So one thing I could try to do is when I do the buff length minus, I should say +2, right? The other thing is that technically, when I find the boundary here, that's what I just added. I also don't check for like the first, like the 2 characters before that. So like sending it to the other one is the right thing to do, but right now I'm just gonna ignore that for a sec. Right. Ooh, buffer not big enough immediately? Really? So you're telling me that like the buffer length and buffer length here overflew, unless buffer length was not set to 0 initially and just went crazy. I don't know. Is this something that I can check? Because maybe it had garbage data in there and then it immediately said you don't have enough space. Because that did it like right away. Oh, buffer not big enough. Okay, so maybe I'm doing something when I jump to another boundary that awaiting boundary found, jump there, awaiting headers, awaiting data. I should go to awaiting awaiting headers. This is not more data. Yeah, state awaiting headers. That would help. Okay, we're back to normal-ish. Don't know if there's like an autofocus in this thing. It's interesting that the headers always are printed there. But yeah, we'll see. Let's let it run. I can do like shadows. This is my elbow, right? Yeah. So could I just do shadows like this? Yeah. I can't wait until it's done. The CPU does go up 6%. And now it's starting to go crazy there. Not really. But obviously it's because I am like constantly decoding JPEG, which I don't even know if this is like something that should be hardware acceleration or not. Ooh, there's a bit of a lag there as we go. CPU goes to 10%. So it's probably something not great. I am getting some split there. But yeah, I mean, it is working. What's interesting is that you can actually just, this is the phone there, so I could actually just show it. Woot. That's my face. And this is the thing. What am I showing? Let me see. I'm showing this. Okay. That's the video feed. Oh, that's really funky. I could actually put myself on top of myself there. There you go. That would be funny. Oh, it crashed. I can't show it anymore. Oh yeah, I was just showing that like while I keep the phone plugged for its battery, this was over the Wi-Fi, the local network. So this is working as an IP camera in OBS. I'm probably going to stop here actually. I'm just going to already stop, like there's some stuff that's working. I do want to go into the to-do and then see what we looked into. So double the frame for frame is done. Signal, this is poo-poo for sure. Streaming tree is kind of fixed. Reuse with STB image definitely needs to be done because I am mallocing and freeing every time I decode with STB image. And I think the reuse is very much going to be that that malloc thing. So when I can replace like what malloc is for STB image, and I'm gonna have to do something super stupid, which is like if malloc is for this buffer, then yeah, I get this much. Actually, no, I may just make an arena. Like I might, in this program, I may just like mmap some stuff. One area is going to be for the network data. One area is going to be for the JPEG buffer, and then an area is going to be for like the data for what is it called? STB. I might have like an arena just for STB. Actually, what I need is basically two arenas, one for each of the stage one. Anyways, so reuse is going to be like super easy. Pre-allocatable memory for JPEG frames, I literally just did that, and then the rest is just not there. But like signal for boundaries, for sure. Like I'm just scanning the thing is not great. I should be able to use string compare, but reality is like I can't do that because yeah, that string, right, does not let me do that. I could do an strtok and loop through that, but I think it does the same thing anyways, until I find the dashes. Maybe it's a faster way. Like maybe I should have a thing which is not str but just find the boundary as a function, and then what it does is just seeks the double dashes, and if it finds the double dashes, it then does a string strncmp on the remainder of the stuff. That might actually be a bit better. Actually, I won't do that now. Let's just do that. So let me see. Static char star find boundary with a char star haystack char star boundary size t length. It's not the length of the boundary because the boundary is going to be null terminated, which I'm going to do strlen. No, let's just ignore that for now. So what I need to do is basically this, right? Except that instead of needle and this, I might just do the whole thing. No, boundary, this is fine. Just keep it there. And instead of this, I can do if haystack at I is different from dash continue I plus 1 is different from continue, and then here I want to do strcmp with haystack plus 1 plus I plus 2. So I skip two things, which means I probably need to do this minus plus 2 just to be safe. And what I want to compare it is with boundary and I kind of want to return the end of the boundary, but I just return the beginning of it. I think that makes sense. And then the strlen of the boundary for sure, right? So this is gonna need, and it feels the same if I'm being honest, except that this actually does the fun stuff. Anyways, strncmp I plus 2 haystack plus I is where I found the thing, and here's going to be return null. Now I actually have a more solid find haystack, which I can use in my awaiting boundary. Oh, I'm doing str in here. str algorithm. So if it's the same, Like if it just literally goes through everything, I'll just replace it with mine. But the implementation of Visual Studio STR is not known to me, and I'm a certain. Why is Visual Studio mentioned there? Depending on starting point, it might be possible that different algorithms are used. Yeah, so I suspect that STR is probably profile, perform, valid performance test, pro data. Okay, it's great, but I just wish someone said, hey, this is what, you know. STR uses a fine-tuned processor-specific assembly-coded algorithm. Yeah. Okay, let's just keep it to that for now. Let's just be okay. So here, this is where found. I'm gonna say find boundary. I didn't write properly, right? Found boundary. Now the thing is, boundary then is gonna have instead of doing a like, oh, do this +2, it's gonna have to be +4, right? And then here, mem copy found -4. Why would I do found -4 when I mem copy here? That's the question. Minus cursor. So how much do I want to copy? Cursor. Find -4. Found -4. Am I expecting a line return before that? Yeah, I guess so. But because I got a double dash, but I wasn't doing double dash before, but now I got a double dash, it should be 2 because it's just a 2. Okay, let's assume that's what it is. Do I do anything else with found? Yes. Found plus the string length +4. But what would it be for then? It's 2 dashes plus line return. Is this already written before that? Yeah, sure. Okay, there's line return after that. Okay, sure. I don't think this is going to be doing much of a difference there. I think that what it just did was just stupid. But it didn't break it, at least. I am still doing a very inefficient STR replacement. But I just wish STR did not operate on non-automated string. I wish you could just like have a STR and STR. Anyways, I can't get it. Right, we'll do more tomorrow, but I'm going to finish now for now. That'll be it for today. Yeah, there's a bit more, and then we can just do something nice. But yeah, let me check the list again. Yeah, GPU map buffer for OBS would be great. See if that's faster. Obviously, it's host visible using Vulkan terms, right? Or I don't know. So it's not the fastest memory, but maybe it's better rather than uploading something every time. I guess it is uploading something every time, anyways. Yeah, reuse with a CV image would be great. Sig need of various people, yeah, which is correct. If I can do an STR version, I mean, I could basically say every time you find one, if you're still within the string, continue STR. Not great, but we can do that. Anyways, that'll be it for now. Bye.